Hey guys, welcome to the third installment on the Getting Started with the Phantom O. Let's go. All right, and we are back with the third installment of the Getting Started. And if you guys haven't seen the last two videos, I'll put a playlist. Everything's going to be in a playlist for you guys. So make sure you check out those before getting to this video. I don't want you guys to miss important information from the previous videos. But if you're caught up to those, we're going to move and focus onto the right hand side of the board. And to get us started, we're going to switch out of our scene view. We're going to go into single tone view. And we're going to start on the parameter button. Now basically what the parameter button is, it allows you to go kind of deeper into the Zen core engine and start to make changes to different parameters to your tones. So let's go ahead and press the button. And if you look on the left hand side, it's going to give you all these different options to start making adjustments to your tones. So if you really want to get into sound design and things like that, this is probably where you're going to want to start. So poly is going to allow you to play multiple notes at the same time for your polyphony, and mono is going to be single note polyphony. So it has a little bit of a difference there. Mono is really good for like lead sound design. And if you go to analog fill, let's just turn this up a little bit. Or you can adjust it down here. Let's crank it all the way up. So really just kind of a brief description of what you can do. A lot of different sound design features in here. Okay. Now if we press exit, if you look on the front of the board, right here, there's also a parameter button. You just click on that. That'll get you there as well. And if you look up to the top, you're going to have a whole section up here for synth control. You have your oscillator, your amp, your FX button, your LFO, and you're going to have a filter sweep button right here. The oscillator button is just going to be a shortcut into your parameters to get to the oscillator section. Still on the parameters. Same thing with your amp. And your FX is going to bring you into your single tone FX. In the last episode, we talked about the master effects button. That allows you to make effects changes throughout all the zones and tones. This FX button is going to be per tone, per zone changes. Just like in the master effects, if we hit enter, it's going to go ahead and give us all different types of options. And if we will through, let's just go ahead and click on the super filter. All right, and if we hit zone select, our next single tone is going to be a pop piano as well. Let's press 1 again. So you see same tones, but the FX is only affecting the channel that you're making the changes to. And same thing with all of the parameters over here. This is going to be a zone, single zone by zone change. Okay. Last button over here is going to be our LFO. If we press that, it's going to get us into our LFO settings and our parameters. So again, just quick shortcuts for changes. Let's go ahead and exit out of that. So our next knob right here is going to be our filter sweep button. And what this does is it allows you to sweep through different frequencies. And it's just kind of a shortcut feature here. So let's go ahead and play something. And see how it's cutting off the sound. Now if I go ahead and go to 2. This is a low pass filter. You can also get to your filter settings back in through your parameter. See, we're on filter. And this is going to show you all the different variations. And look, if we adjust the knob, you can see it here. But instead of having to continuously go into your parameters for it, they built you kind of a shortcut section right here. You can switch through your filter types with this button, and they gave you a resonance knob. Basically, let's find a good one. Basically, your resonance is going to boost a single frequency, kind of like an EQ, and it's going to really exaggerate that sound. But, you know, when it comes to tweaking settings and different things like that, it's really handy to have these buttons right here so close. Now, let's go ahead and clear out the filter. Let's just go single tone. And now we're back onto a blank piano. If you look over into this section, this is going to be our layout to our sequencing, okay? This is technically a workstation keyboard. I'm going to be 100% honest. I'm not a huge fan of building songs on workstations. I think the DAWs are a lot faster. I've worked with them over the years. But for those of you who want to dabble in, I'll do a future video on how to make a song on here. But for this video, to keep it kind of brief and not make it extremely long, I'm just going to kind of briefly explain what each button does. Now, the first button right here, this is going to be our pattern sequencer. All right. And this is our building blocks when it comes to starting making songs inside the keyboard. If you look right here, the layout of the keyboard is similar to probably Ableton in a sense, kind of that clip style sequencing, where if you look 1, 2, 3, 4, you're having these vertical channels of sounds, and then you're having these horizontal clip features. Okay. If you want to access all 16, you press this button up here, and now you have access to 16 zones. And to reference our first video, you can toggle through your zones here as long as you have zone select on. And once you get to 8, if you want to reach further from 9 through 16, you press zone 9 through 16. Now 1 becomes 9, 10, 11, 12, all the way up to 16. Okay. If we double back and let's go to zone 1, we have our piano. If we want to do some form of recording, we have our record, play, stop button. We can just hit record. And now you can hear the tempo. You see how it's flashing right there. If you want to do a count in, you just press count in. Let's do 1 measure. Okay. And to record, when we press start, it's going to officially start that 1 measure count in. So don't judge me. I make better music than this, but let's just dabble. Let's press start. 1, 2, 3, 4. And now you've made your first loop in the machine. And you can go to your next track. Let's go to, let's zoom in closer. Let's turn the view button to 8. And let's change this to piano, electric piano. So our first track was our regular piano. Our second track is going to be an electric piano. I'm going to just press the octave button. Let's go down 1. Let's go down 1 more. All right, so let's go ahead and click record. It's still left our 1 measure count in on. We're just going to add a simple bass note. 2, 3, 4. Okay, really simple stuff. You can quantize it by going into PTN utility as quantized settings. There's more settings here. Like I said, I don't want to spend super long on this, but just to kind of give you a brief example of what's happening in the pattern section, this is where you're going to start building your songs. And then for some reason, Roland decided that instead of just taking this into a linear sequence, you build your songs here, and then the next button, you take them and you put them into a group. So let's toggle into group. Group is really weird. So group essentially allows you to take your recordings, pinch them in, and then push them into a song, which then goes into their linear sequencer. Okay. To give you a quick example, let's go ahead and click grouping. And let's just hit set. And we have those two pieces highlighted. We're just going to hit OK. The grouping's complete. See how it's red? And let's rename this. Let's clear all. And let's name this intro. And let's go ahead and click OK. It's name intro. Set to group 1. Yes. And let's exit out. And now when you're in groups, and then you can set the length of these groups. They're originally 4-bar measures. So we'll leave it at a 4-bar measure. And then you take that and you make a song out of it. And then you add the group over. It's really hard to explain this in a short amount of time. But that's basically Roland's idea of making a song on the Fantom. Let's go ahead and jump out of this. And let's take a look into our TRX sequencer. Now the TRX sequencer is a step-based sequencer. Let's go ahead and bring our octave up. And let's get back into a single tone. And let's find a drum kit. To better explain it, we have the drum kit, and let's go ahead and click TRX. Now the way that this sequencer works is if I click a note, it's going to move this yellow bar. Okay? And let's say we want to start with a clap. It's not really a clap. Rim shot. And we want to program this onto the step sequencer. Notice how you have 1 through 16 above your piano and electric. This is giving you that 16 step sequencer right here. So let's put our first clap over. Well, let's listen to it. By turning on the tempo, let's turn on our tempo. Let's press play. And our scale, we have 16. Let's do, it's a fast tempo. Let's go ahead, let's turn down our tempo. Let's go 90. We're not gonna win any awards here, but let's just go ahead, let's put a clap in here. And let's turn our tempo on. Let's move it, we're not on the right grid. Okay, so our first one is going to be our rim shots. Now let's go ahead and press our kick. See, it moves us to a different channel. Let's put a kick here. Let's listen. Okay. And for our next one, Why not? Just giving you a general idea of how their sequencer works. As you can tell, I don't really program drums, so I'm a record and play if you've seen any of my other videos, but it has a basic sequencer in here, okay? And if you want to stretch the length, you can go further. I mean, it goes up to 64, I believe, so a pretty decent length. And if you want to scale, you can change, you know, the scale patterns. And if you look down here, you see how it's adjusting. So that's the basic sequencer. Let's go ahead and exit out. Let's go back into single tone. That should clear us out. And if you look at the right hand side of the board, we have 16 pads. Now these pads aren't what I would call drumming pads by any means. They're more like buttons, okay? It has a clicky kind of feel to it as opposed to the machine or even the push. That's not going to play anything. But these have those MPC style drums. If you are looking to have drum pads on here, they can work, but it's definitely not going to be something that you're going to rave to everybody about, okay? But because they're button situated, they gave you more features over here to the right hand side. So the first one's going to be sampling, and sampling is going to bring us into what these purple pads are actually seeing. So let's go ahead and click sampling. And if you look right here, you can sample to your pad, you can sample to the keyboard, you can sample into internal storage, you can import, but for us, we're just going to click on pad sample. And now if you look here, it's going to show you the loop that this is on. So let's press 1 and it's going to trigger the first loop here on 1. Turn it off. Notice how it says loop. So it has 3 different modes here. Loop obviously is going to loop it through. Gate, if you press it, it's going to play it. And if you let go, it's going to stop. Let's show you an example of the gate pad. So this is a gate on number 5. And see, I let off the pad, the sample stopped. Okay. If we exit out, keyboard, this is going to be more creating your own samples on the board. That's a whole video for itself. But if we want to check your memory, you can go ahead and click wave. And this is going to kind of give you an idea of, you know, how much sample size you have in there for your board. Our next button is going to be our pad mode. This is going to change the light guide and colors of those 16 pads to green, and it's going to give you an option to change how you want these pads situated. So let's press pad mode. And notice sample pad, that was our original mode when it was pink. Notepad, their dot control, zone, mute, zone solo. There's so many different ways you can use the pads, but we'll go into a further video on that later. So let's go ahead and exit out of there. Our next button is going to be our clipboard. This is kind of a copy paste function for your samples. And to better explain this, let's click sampling. Let's go back into our samples and click bank 1. It's weird. You have to click the sample, then click your clipboard, and that's going to copy it over to the clipboard. It moved it, and see how it's highlighted there. Now it's taking that sample onto the clipboard, and to paste it somewhere, you press the clipboard button and then assign it to the designated pad you want it to go to. For this, I'm just going to put it right back where it belongs. Hold it down, press, now it's there. The next button is bank. This is just a shortcut to get into our banks up here. And to kind of explain, let's exit out, press bank, bank 1, 2, 3, 4. See how it's on bank 2? If we go into sampling, pad sample, bank 2. It's just a shortcut. Let's exit back out. The last button that we have over here is hold, and it does exactly that. It just holds it. If we're in our sampling view, when we were talking about gate modes, if we click on bank 3, number 5 is a gate mode. If we switch over to bank 1, number 1, these are all loops. So if it's a loop, it's just going to continuously loop. Okay. However, the gates don't do that. If you have something in gate mode, like I showed earlier, if you press on it, as soon as you release it, it's going to let go. What we're going to do is we're just going to show you, let's press hold, and then the number 5. And now it's playing the sample that was originally a gate. Okay. Press hold to turn it off. And if you want to dive further into your sample edits, you can click here on the wave edit. Let's go over to bank 1, click drums, and let's go to wave edit. It's going to show you your sample in here, and you can preview it. And you can change your start points, basic, simple sample editing. Let's go ahead and edit out. And we're back to our scenes. And that's the right-hand side of the board. Hey guys, thanks for watching. Make sure to like, subscribe, and turn on that notification bell to stay up to date on all the latest episodes. And if you like this content, check out those videos. And there's more Fantom content coming soon. Fantom O. See you on the next one.